Alright guys, so my intention for this weekend was to go through Rob and Skep's hour-long video and the ones they've put up since, and to meticulously respond to everything that they've said. But I've decided I'm not going to bother, because I'd rather have a fun weekend. To be honest, it would take a long time and it would be quite boring, because it would mainly consist of me restating my positions and clarifying, that's not what I've claimed, this is what I've claimed, that's not my position, this is my position. There's no point. And by this stage, if you agree with me or if you agree with them, you're not going to be swayed either way. That's it. And calling me an idiot and picking up on rhetorical mistakes that I've made doesn't affect the validity of the overall concerns and positions that I hold here, because there's people with a far greater intellect and a far greater grasp of these issues that agree with me in on these positions. People like Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers, Noam Chomsky, Ray McGovern, CIA analyst for 25 years. I could go on. So those arguments are out there, and picking me up on little things like you have done, I don't think it really helps the debate, to be honest. I mean, Rob says that I don't care if I'm wrong and that that's not going to change my position. Well, let me just give you an analogy as to the kind of calibre of the things that they pick me up on. Things like referring to the AUMF Iraq as the AUMF 2002 draft. Even though it's clear I was talking about the Iraq legislation, because I was talking about how Congress were lied to in order to pass it. Say I saw a big green tank rolling towards us, and I'm like, shit, everyone out the way, you're going to get squashed, there's a big blue tank rolling towards us. Rob and Skepper there going, actually I think you'll find that's a big green tank, therefore no one's going to get squashed, you're an idiot, shut up. You see? So yeah, I really don't need to restate my positions. You can go and watch my series. I think it's pretty clear what I've been trying to say on these issues. But I am going to give Rob his dues, because there's something we have in common, and that is that we don't hide our bias. Now, my filter is that I don't trust our governments. So I look at what they're doing in terms of these wars, and I'm thinking, you're full of shit, I don't trust you, that's bullshit. That's my filter, right? Conversely, Rob's filter is that he's admitted he trusts the US government too much, even though I know he disagrees with a lot of the stuff they've been doing, but he openly admits he trusts them too much and that he supports American exceptionalism, and I give him credit for admitting that bias, but that's what it is, bias. So guys, sorry, you can't claim to have the objective truth on these issues, because it's being debated by people with a far greater grasp of these issues than us, right? So calling me an idiot all day long doesn't affect anything. I'm concerned with trying to have an accurate analysis of the actions of our governments and whether that correlates with what they're saying. I'm saying it doesn't. For example, I mean, Rob, you previously tried to analogize the war on terror, or the war against Al-Qaeda and affiliated forces, if you want to be specific, even though they haven't been, because they haven't specified who affiliated forces are, as I've proven that we supported people that could fall in that category. But you tried to analogize those military actions with a nation versus nation state. It's not analogous to that, as is kind of pointed out by the thing that you read out in your new video, where you've said that it's an unprecedented war. It's a new kind of war, and that kind of thing. So, and there isn't a defined battlefield, because I really don't think Yemen and Pakistan were included in that battlefield initially, and they're going around drone bombing all those areas as well. But yeah, so my filter is I don't trust our governments. And just to give one recent example of why that is a perfectly legitimate stance to have, the Palestinian UN General Assembly vote. Now I know that Rob supported that they were being officially recognised in this way, and yet the UK government abstained and the US voted against it. And the rhetoric that's came from William Hague when he tried to convince Palestine to not even apply for that recognition, and the rhetoric that's come from the US State Department, is despicable. And that's tip of the iceberg stuff, of course. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't really feel the need to keep restating my positions and re-clarifying stuff, because if you watch my whole series in full, I think it's clear what I'm saying. And that's certainly different to the way that it's been represented by these guys. These guys that get nasty, they get personal and nasty. There's no call for it. And yeah, I probably raised to the debate a couple of times, but I've tried to stay as civil as possible. Try to actually talk about the issues. I'm not calling them idiots, and they're not idiots. I just think that they accept too willingly the rhetoric coming from our governments, even though they disagree with some of those actions. They still go on and validate or back up the arguments, which are not objective truth, guys. Sorry. I'm going to link a couple of videos in the low bar by a couple of guys who have addressed these issues in really great, probably more succinct way than I have. One on Hamas situation by the Azov, and one on the NDAA by Old Comic One. And these two guys, you need to go and check them out and sub if you like what you see, if you're not already. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say, really. Like I said, I don't want to spend half my weekend going through all the videos and replying to each point, because it'll just consist of me restating my positions and re-clarifying things. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Let me just... did I make any notes? What do we have here? I mean, yeah. You know, don't you think we should be winding down now these military efforts and excursions, right? I mean, the military budget of the US has doubled since the invasion of Iraq, I think it is. Doubled. Even though by US order mission, Al-Qaeda has been reduced to basically being ineffectual, is one statement they've made on that. And it's really not defined. You know, affiliated forces has not been defined. Substantially supported have not been defined. So it's those little uses of how to phrase things in this legislation and their rhetoric that does leave all this stuff open to interpretation. And you know, that's what I'm concerned with, is looking at their actions and how they intend to behave. And it's things like trying to classify a journalist as having substantially supported enemy forces by having talked to them. Yeah, tip of the iceberg stuff, but they're not concerned with addressing the validity of the concerns over the issues of right and wrong on these matters, I don't think. For example, I linked an article by a Harvard website, and instead of addressing what that guy was saying in the article with regards to critiques of the NDAA, they just said, well, that guy's an undergraduate, so whatever. Did you look at the argument? Do you have something to say about what he was arguing there? Maybe you do. You didn't state it. Yeah, it's a losing battle, because they just get nastier and nastier and start coming out with personal slanders, and you know, it's just very boring at this stage. It's quite a juvenile way to behave, really, and maybe I've risen to it on occasion, got me back up, but I've tried to stay as civil as possible and try to keep it on point. Yeah, I don't know, I think that's, like I said, I'm not going to go through it bit by bit, because I'd rather go and get pissed. Alright guys, bye bye.